What's going on, my fellow slime hunters? I know it's been a while since I put out a video, but honestly speaking, I mean, we're all still kind of testing things out and what works and what doesn't. And today I want to talk about something very important. We're going to be talking about gear progression. Now, in order to get the best gear possible, right, you're going to be wanting to farm various places, either the regular field, Tower of Limits, and even boss raids, right? So everything before legendary gear does not matter at all. Like, I'm not trying to be funny, but the gear that you pick up off the ground, in most cases, I think when you're leveling up and stuff, you'll get like this gear selection chests and stuff like that. But let's go ahead, right? Let's craft a couple of these. I'm gonna craft about 5 of those. All right. And so the important thing to note, right, is that with your gear, you have 2 different things you're going to want to look out for. You have defensive equipment set stats, and then you have the attribute of said equipment. And in most cases, you're going to want either spell or restore. Now, one thing I will bring up is that I will be testing out the counter build for a more defensive build. And yeah, I know that sounds kind of weird or whatever, but it's something to test out, right? And speaking of testing out things, instead of going straight for Meteor or Meteor in gear, I went for Gold Rich Up. And I would say this is a pretty good set, right? So, back to what I was talking about before. As you can see for the counter set, the legendary set, the legendary gear, right? So this is the set that you're going to get. This is at least what you're going to start out with. And these are the attributes that are going to come with it. Now, when you first craft it, you're going to, sorry, I feel like I can't speak right now. All right, so, as you can see, when you have a 2-piece set, you get an HP bonus. 3-piece, you get reduced damage, and then a 4-piece, you get ignore defense. These stats are much higher as you go up in the ranking, as you can see here. Let's do that. All right. So when it's fully LR, you can see that you get a 30% bonus with HP, 35% reduced damage, and then 25% with ignore defense. Ignore defense is really important. We'll talk about that in a moment. But, yeah, so with the gear, right? As I said before, you have the gear itself, so it's legendary. And then you have the attribute set. So when you're using the counter attribute, you're getting magic resistance, physical resistance, and HP. When you're using this spell attribute, you're getting more MP, you're getting reduced MP consumption, and then you're getting cooldown reduction. And then for this one, which is restore, you're going to get HP, reduced damage, and then restore HP per basic attack. So if I remember correctly, let's see, we have counter, so it's counter, spell, restore. Is there another one? I don't think there's another one. For the armors that you get in the field, those kind of vary a little bit. I know there's a fairy set, which is like attack speed, but after you go above that, I don't think there's any other one. Let's see, restore, evade. That's another one. So let's take a look at that one. So you get move speed, ignore debuffs, which is really good, and you get evasion rate. So you would choose one of these. Wait, what is this? Counter spell. All right, one of 4 attributes. Wow, sorry. One of 4 attributes for your armor set. Personally, if you want more damage, I would go with a spell set. Even though it kind of seems like you're getting like cooldowns and reduced MP consumption. You still get this add skill damage there. Now, the add skill damage, even at my Gold Rich Up spell, is kind of minimal, not gonna lie. But the extra 270% buff per piece more than makes up for it. So that's completely fine. Um, but I would recommend for damage for anyone doing damage builds, which would be pretty much most of the characters. You can probably put a restore set on Carpet Bomber, maybe Hydra, but I really wouldn't recommend that because Hydra skills are also skill damage. So I want to say 90% of the roster is gonna be spell damage set. But anyway, right? We have spell damage. So those are your options, right? Those are your options for your armor set with attributes. So you're either gonna want spell or restore, evade too. I guess you could play around with that a little bit, because that one gives you, I think, max dodge if with a full set, which is only 90%. But I mean that 90% is really good. While we're on the topic, let's talk about gear. Let's see, we got these are all destroyed. Okay, well, that doesn't matter anyway because you want either harvest or destroy attribute for your weapon. Harvest, you kind of have to work for it a little bit. For each monster that you kill, you get a very, 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 very small stat increase per kill, up to a maximum. Let's see, I have it on this sword here. Up to a maximum of 130%. And that stays on your weapon, that particular weapon. So if you change weapons, you do not get that stat boost. Despite the stat being in your stats, despite the let me show you. Actually, it's a lot easier to show you. Despite it being in your stats, okay, I don't know if you can see it there, but right there, that 130%. If I take this weapon off, it's still gonna be there. Unequip. Where is it? Oh, I was wrong. Okay, sometimes, all right, let me say sometimes it stays there. Actually, no. I think the reason why it stays there is because, let's say, for instance, you use one of these scrolls, right? And you change the attribute of said weapon. If you've already maxed it out and you change it to something like Destroy, where, like, you need more Ignore Defense for, like, a few days or a week or whatever, and you don't want to necessarily go on your main stat screen and change out those stats from there, you can always switch back and forth, and the weapon will stay at the 130%, or whatever other percent you left it off on. So that's really something important to note if you happen to be doing that for whatever reason. So yeah, that's Harvest, and then Destroy is just straight up, where is it? Just straight up maximum Ignore Defense increase. So at max, it is an extra 3, it's not showing me here, but it is an extra, I think it shows me here, because that's the default one that it likes to show. No? No. Okay, well, I can tell you from personal experience, that Destroy is a maximum, gives you, wow, I'm sorry guys, I cannot speak. Gives you an extra 3.5% maximum Ignore Defense on your character. So then you end up having, let's see, with everything here, what am I at now? I'm at 95. You'll end up having 98.5 Ignore Defense, which is really good. But what's better that is the Horror stat. And the way that works, if I remember correctly, listen carefully now, I know it's going to sound kind of confusing, but so the Horror stat will reduce monster defense for 3 seconds. So as long as you're continuously attacking, it's going to basically reduce the armor until it's dead. Now, as you can see here, I have 95% Ignore Defense. And as you can see here, I have 98% reduce monster defense. So what happens is, what Horror does is it reduces the monster's current maximum defense by 98%, and then your attacks penetrate the remaining 95% of that armor. It's for what it's how I remember it. Because there's been a lot of discussion of how it ends up working in the chat. And I have to tell you, that's probably how it works, because for, I think, a week, I did not have the boots. I actually just crafted the boots today, so I just got the full set today. My ultimate beast now was doing fairly well in Tower of Limits. I was farming around like 15 to 1600. And when I tell you, I put on those boots and I jumped all the way. Let's see, where am I at right now? I jumped all the way to farming around this mid-range here, and I actually have a new best, which is 22, well, almost 2300. So having that maximum horror really does boost your damage, like, exponentially. It is great. But anyway, back to gear progression as a whole. Everything before legendary gear does not matter. Pick up anything. And honestly speaking, I think with like events and stuff, and then with the level up thing, because this is a new thing that came with the game on relaunch. That wasn't a thing before. With the level up gifts and stuff like that, just remember 4 different attributes and many different armor equipment sets. So we have legendary. Let's take a look. We got legendary Goldwitch, Traces, Dia Chakra, Diasis. Then you have the upgraded version of Goldwitch and Traces. You got Product of Meteorin and Product of Meteor. So if I remember correctly, all of these as a defensive set, let's see, 30% HP, reduced damage, 30% HP, reduced damage, reduce damage. Now, I don't think it starts changing. Let's see. Okay, it does not start changing until you get to these here. So you get HP, reduced damage, and then you get adaptive damage. So the funny thing about these two, right, is that the damage is good. However, we as a whole, I think, at least, have come to the general consensus that you can craft this armor, but don't use it. You're going to actually want to use Goldwitch until Product of Meteor or Product of Meteorin, whichever one you go for. I personally am doing something like Goldwitch up, and then eventually, if I feel like I need to, I will go ahead and craft those. But let's keep going here. So these are different here, and then once you get to Goldwitch, it's vastly different. I now no longer have extra HP or extra defense of any kind. I'm actually trading out all my HP and defense for horror, that stat we talked about earlier, which is really good. So basically trading out my defense for way more damage. Traces is a little different too, I believe. So you only get 1 line of the ignore defense, and then you get 100% ignore debuffs. And then you continue to get what Traces is known for, which is you attack, and then at the end of those 10 seconds, it does a burst of damage. Now, I think I mentioned in the very first video I made that you could use either or. I, honestly speaking, would say that Traces is obsolete. It's not very good. In fact, I even see that Carpet Bombers run Goldwitch. So I can confidently say that if you don't use Traces, you're not missing out on anything. In fact, if you think about using Traces, you should probably just use one of these armors anyway, because this gives this does adaptive damage, which is way better than waiting 10 seconds for a huge burst of damage. But yeah, and then once you get down to these obviously are really good. I mean, 2 sets, ignore defense, reduce damage, and then that's just even more adaptive damage. So the adaptive damage is very good, especially if you have maximum attack speed, which is another thing I'll get around to. Because having maximum attack speed, even on a character, wow, I'm attacking so fast, it literally cannot show it. Hold on. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but anyway. Having maximum attack speed is very important, especially for weapons like this, where it does ignores the defense, drops a meteor or whatever every time you attack. So that's pretty good. But anyway, what I was getting at with this is you're going to want to, basically, Legendary is your start off, right? Goldwitch, you're going to have Goldwitch for a while, unless you feel like transferring to one of these, that's totally fine. Once you hit these, though, one thing you have to keep in mind is that your HP is going to be reduced each time you use a basic attack. As you can see, it consumes 4.3 HP, deals damage in proportion. I can't read that. It's a little weird. I think it's based on the enemy's current HP. So the less HP they have, the more damage you do. But I mean, you end up having no HP anyway, unless you do restore. So for these, I would recommend having the restore attribute on them. But if you're not going to go for those, because again, a lot of people are saying that those are trash, but they're good if you're going for one of these. So if you're going for one of these, you got to craft them anyway, despite them being trash. But you're probably going to stay on Goldrich for a while. A lot of people were saying that the Goldrich up variation is a waste of time. I don't think it's a waste of time. It's honestly a good boost. I mean, I already said that I went from farming 1600 to 21, between 21, 22. I think it's just all about that steady gear progression. And obviously, as a free-to-play player, I'm not a free-to-play player, but I don't spend a whole lot of money on the game. But for someone who spends a minimal amount of money to free-to-play, I would definitely start off with Legendary, move your way into Goldrich, and then kind of segue into Goldrich up. Again, unless you want to go for Product of Meteorin, but you'll kind of just be sitting with the regular Goldrich armor for like a long time. So I would go from Goldrich to Goldrich up, and then if you want to go from Product of Meteorin, you can. Now, Goldrich compared to Product of Meteorin, or Meter, one of the Meter sets, doesn't really matter. They both essentially do the same thing. One's just a little more consistent, being the Meter, as it's every second, while the Product of Meteorin is every 5 seconds. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about the accessories. Anyway, that's another thing too. The only difference between going with from Goldrich to Goldrich up instead of these two is that these two actually come with end game accessory sets. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't use these, because actually, as you can see on my character here, I have all the Diasis accessories, and nothing's stopping me from upgrading them, right? So I guess it's the only difference. Let's check it out. Because once you get full set for the Dia set, it is a 1300% physical and magical boost, damage boost. I'm getting a 1080% attack and magic spell increase every 30 seconds, blah, blah, blah. It's basically permanently up all the time. I'm missing about 220%, if my math is correct, worth of stat boosts, obviously. But my character's still far from done with having more progression being done on it. It's just I chose not to go with the meter set. I can upgrade these, upgrade my weapon, and I still, my character still has a chance to get stronger, right? So just because you don't go for that right away doesn't mean that your character is bricked in any way. I'm actually going to go for the Crystal Shining Up. That's why I have it starred. Nowhere near close, as I've crafted all this stuff today. But I went with this because it has the 2.5 million% light beam, right? And I'm just kind of looking at these, and this one's like, whatever. And again, because I don't have the set, there's no reason for me to craft these right now, you know what I mean? And then I look at this, and that one, that's 3 million. So it's not far behind from these. Now, obviously, these are a much better weapon, but I'm just looking at percentage-wise, and obviously, these are a lot harder to craft. How do people even craft that? But I feel like I'm getting off topic right now. What was I saying? Back to the gear progression, right? As I've said before, you want to start off with Legendary, move into Goldrich. Where am I going? Move into Goldrich. If you're not planning on crafting these two, I would go into Goldrich up. If you do craft one of these two, don't use them. I know that sounds really stupid, but don't use the set, because it kind of just ends up having you killed like 100% of the time. And I know for TOL farming, you kind of want to die fast, but this makes you die insanely fast. But yeah, if you are going to go for one of these two, you're going to stay with your gold rich until you can craft one of these, which honestly isn't too bad if you... well, I say that, but I mean, like, it's a lot of mats. But so is this. So, I mean, again, everything will come with time. And a majority of players always ask, like, oh, well, how do you get stronger? How do you even get these materials? It's Tower of Limits. If you pay attention to your screen, you can get some of the materials that'll drop from the dungeon, but it's definitely not the best way. To get recipes, you're going to want to grind dungeon. I hate grinding dungeon. It is the most boring thing ever. And I know it sounds funny when the game itself plays out itself. But what I did the other day is I went from 1 all the way up to 1,500, and I just reduced it again recently. And I was looking for a specific recipe. And recipe, I only got 10 of them. So that's that's your recipe dungeon in a nutshell. Now, when you're doing it for the first few hundred times, because you will be using a dungeon as your means of getting to level 300 from 290 to 300, I guess you can go a little bit earlier. But I don't know. I think it's kind of... in hindsight, it's easier to get to 290 than it is 290 to 300. But I think what I'm saying is I think it's easier to get to 290 in the field than to just bum rush dungeon. I guess you could bum rush dungeon. That's another thing I'll have to test. I think someone actually in the Discord said that they did. But yeah, there's your progression for your gear and stuff. So always try to keep in mind your stat boosts, your your attributes and your set bonuses. No set bonuses mean you're not really doing the best that your character can do. Another thing to talk about is soul stones, right? I think I talked about these mostly, right? You kind of want to max these out. Now, a lot of people say, oh, don't max out reduce defense, don't max out all defense or whatever, blah, 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 for faster TOL farming. I say kind of just max out the stats that you can, because, again, my character seems to be doing pretty all right in TOL. What I want to talk about is how to get max attack speed without having attack speed on your items. This may seem kind of ridiculous, but every pet or every monster in the game has a chance of dropping a stone of itself, and you have to actually go in your inventory. These are the pet stones, and then you go to use. It'll have a little animation, and you can use these stones to either re-roll the stats or increase their level. And unless you want to break your fingers, I don't sit here all day increasing a level like that, because it's a pretty minimal increase. Unless you have, like, I think I have 20,000. No, yes, yeah, 11,000, 14,000. Those are the boss ones though. But pets, they stop at 250, and some of them are pretty close. Others not really. But I went ahead and put all these into max attack or attack speed. Now, do all of them need to be attack speed? No, but I don't have them all at 225 yet, so I can't really tell which ones I need and which ones I don't yet. So you want to go ahead and do that for max attack speed, because I think that's the best way possible. Best way to level all your pets is Pet Square. Now, free-to-play players, this is going to suck royally, because not only do you have to watch an ad every time you go in, you only get 3 entries per day. So, if you're really gung-ho about maxing out your pets, and you are free to play, then, I mean, bless you. You're better than me, because I definitely spent the $10. But if you are spending the $10, I would say do it for 1 week. Do the 10 every day, and your pets will come out around, let's see. I actually did these. These ones could be a little bit higher. But let's go up, because those were the last ones. My pets ended up being around the 180s, 190s range. Again, I guess if you wanted to pay for more than 1 week, you could definitely max it out in 2 weeks. I don't see why not. But if you're going to do it for 1 week, do it. If you can do it for 2 weeks, do it. You know what I mean? Otherwise, it's going to suck royally. Now, what I want to do say before I end the video is how to start off with your legendary gear real quick, because I feel like I either forgot to mention it or maybe it wasn't too straightforward on it enough. In order to obtain your legendary gear, it comes from events, it comes from your leveling up, it comes from the regular field, boss raids, and when I say regular field, some people are a little confused by that, like, oh, how, right? So you have this right over here. If you want the legendary gear to drop, you gotta uncheck that box. The second you uncheck that box, there's a chance that the legendary gear will end up in your inventory. If you have all of these checked except for legendary, that means no gear will end up in your inventory except for the legendary item. Excuse me, except for legendary items. Yeah, I think that's right? Pretty sure. Let's go test that out. Let's go to Monster Yard. Let's do that. Sorry if this is loud. Let's see. Okay, so what did I uncheck? So, legendary C grade, right? Let's uncheck all these. And let's see what ends up here. Alright, cool. So as you can see, I got gear coming into my inventory, but it's only legendary gear. So if you uncheck all the other boxes, you'll have that gear coming in, but it may or may not be legendary. So these ones dropping here are only legendary, and that's an easy way to get legendary gear. Another easy way is boss raids, like I said before. And those aren't that difficult, especially for starting out. But again, just make sure when you are doing your boss raids, you have those boxes unchecked, because if you have them checked, they will auto feed into your current equipment, or will just sell as, where is it checked? Yeah, these here are to sell your button. And that's pretty much it. Any questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know in the comment section. Sorry if I sound weird. My mouth is kind of dry, not gonna lie. But yeah, start off with legendary gear, move into gold rich. If you plan on going for these two here, you're gonna stay with gold rich, but craft one of these two here. Accessories. Ooh, wait, I can't end the video yet because this is a pretty important thing. Accessories. People are saying that Witch and Divine are obsolete. I would say yes to Divine, no to Witch, because I do like the ignore defense, the ignore debuff that you get with each piece. That can be pretty good if you're kind of climbing decently, but like you're having a little bit of trouble, and the only thing kind of giving you trouble, or one of the main contributing factors, is getting stunned out of your mind, or slowed, or whatever, you know what I mean? So I think Witch still plays an important part in your gear progression. Not so much Divine, now that ancient relics are a thing. And honestly speaking, I've had Divine, and it's not as great as it seems. It's a random stun at a very low chance. I wouldn't do it. But anyway, you're gonna go from legendary accessories to Witch Ring, I believe. All right. I know a lot of people will tell you, no, it's garbage, whatever. Into one of these two. Now, a lot of people are going for Diasis. I would agree with that 100%. Not that Diatroc is bad, but it's only every 5 seconds compared to every second. So this is a really good ring. If you can craft this before you're gonna, once you hit gold rich, you probably want to start working towards this, right? Maybe not before Witch's Ring. You could skip Witch's Ring, but if you think you want a little bit of that that CC immunity, I would go for the Witch's Ring, because I had it for a while, and why not? It's not a bad ring. You can always throw it on an ult. But yeah, so Diasis accessories, really good. Definitely gonna want those for your progression as well. And that's about it. I think I covered everything in terms of what I wanted to say. Obviously, ooh, weapon progression actually. It's kind of like the same thing too, right? You're gonna want your legendary weapon. You can choose between these two. The general thing is get a Zeus weapon because Zeus longer range, hits full map. For characters who have a hard time, or hits more of the map, right? Especially, it helps out the characters like for the warriors, for example, for them to farm more efficiently, right? Now, unlike the armors, these swords are good. Everyone again goes for this. Now, like I've stated before, if you don't plan on going for one of these two, you would go for an upgraded version. On the leaderboards, I mostly see Zeus up. Not sure why, because I feel like you don't really need the lightning, but whatever. I'm going to go for Crystal. And these are ridiculous. I couldn't tell you anything about those two. Like, obviously they're good, whichever one you pick. But if you're not going for these two, you can go for one of these two. This gives you more range, I think 350% more range. And I think that's only 30% more range than the actual LR Zeus. So yeah, that's about it. So just for a quick recap, because I kind of I kind of get lost in thought, which I'm sure some people have already with my ridiculous rambling. Legendary armor, move on to gold rich, and then you're going to stay gold rich for a while, unless you're going to gold rich up. If you're not going for gold rich up, craft Dia Chakra or Diasis, and then you're going to end up with meter or meteorin for your weapon. You're going to start with legendary, move into Zeus. I would not recommend Shining because there is no there's no range boost here. There is a range boost for the up version, but anyway, go into Zeus. Go for Diasis sword or Diasis weapon. Even if you're not going for these, move from Diasis weapon to either an up version of weapon of your choice, or you go to one of these. For accessories, you're going to start with legendary, move into witch if you'd like. Do not go for divine. Definitely don't go for divine. And then definitely build Diasis accessories. And then from there, you're going to build your meter relic ring accessories. And that's pretty much it. Again, if I forgot anything, let me know. If this video helped, I hope it helped. I don't know. I don't even know if it helped me. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's really what I wanted to cover, because a lot of people are still confused on what they should be going for, what's good, what's not. I want to confidently say that the things that I said are good are definitely good, and the things that I said are not are definitely not. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a good day.